For more now on U.S.-Cuba relations and the question of removing the island from the list of state sponsors of terrorism in the United States, we turn to Alexandra Hall in Washington.
If item number one on the negotiation table was making sure each country has an embassy in the other's capital, number two was removing Cuba from the U.S. state sponsors of terrorism list. According to senior Cuban diplomats, the issue is a matter of justice.
Cuba strongly believes that it should have never been included in this limited list of countries, and today there is no ground to justify the inclusion of our country in that list. This is for us a matter that has to do with the justice, sheer justice.
Being designated a state sponsor of terrorism by the U.S. government makes financial institutions wary of doing business with Cuba. That means that as the Cuban government works out the nuts and bolts of diplomacy in the weeks ahead, most transactions will have to be done in cash. Without a U.S. bank account, it could be difficult for Cuba to upgrade their interest section in Washington to a fully functioning embassy. But the State Department says that the process of removing Cuba from the state sponsors of terrorism list and the negotiations themselves are two separate processes.
It requires a finding that over the course of the last 6-month period, the country in question has not been engaged in supporting, aiding, abetting different language international terrorist acts.
But many have asked why it's taking so long.
I think that there's going to be a period of time where they get to know one another, they explain their expectations of the framework and what they hope to accomplish, and hopefully they set some near-term and medium and long-term goals. Hopefully the near-term ones are more achievable than some of the stickier issues.
Both sides hope to reopen embassies in the coming months, at best before the Summit of the Americas. Assistant Secretary of State Roberta Jacobson announced a number of delegations that will travel to Cuba in the coming weeks, including one at the end of March, where item number one will be human rights. Alexandra Hall, Washington, Telesur.